Fortnite will vault and unvault weapons all the time, but there's a handful of weapons that have been vaulted and have never come back since. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of those weapons that were vaulted and haven't come back in thousands of days. Be sure you stay till the end because the last item you may have never even known existed in Fortnite. Be sure to use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop if you'd like to support my channel, and let's just get right into this. I'd like to preface before we start that I'm focusing in on weapons that are Battle Royale only, no LTM, so some of these weapons could have been vaulted in Battle Royale, but have come back in an LTM. I believe that's only the case for one weapon, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Firstly, let's talk about the grabatron from Chapter 2, Season 7, which was last seen over 1,000 days ago. The grabatron was brought into Fortnite with update v17.30, which was August of 2021. The grabatron was an interesting weapon. It would essentially just let you pick up any item in front of you and basically just throw it at a player. It was tailored to fit in with the kind of crazy alien season that we saw with Chapter 2 Season 7, and it fit in that season perfectly. It wasn't a great weapon, which may explain why it's never come back, but it was definitely fun to use. This weapon was vaulted in update v18.00, which is just the update that brought Chapter 2 Season 8, and since then the grabatron has never returned to Fortnite. In about a month, it will be 3 full years since we've seen the grabatron. Next, let's talk about the Kingsman umbrella, which was last seen over 1,400 days ago. The Kingsman umbrella was last in game in May of 2020, and it was brought with update v12.30 during Chapter 2 Season 2. And the Kingsman umbrella is one of, if not the most forgotten about weapon of all time. It was a melee weapon that could also be used as an umbrella to stop fall damage, but it was really, really bad. There's no surprises here to me that we haven't seen the Kingsman umbrella come back, and honestly, we probably never will. The umbrella could also be used to briefly block bullets from your opponents, kind of like how the lightsabers function. I featured this weapon in my most forgotten about Fortnite items ever video, so go check that out if you haven't. But this item was only in the game for about 3 months, and it was vaulted in update v12.60 during Chapter 2 Season 2. I have a pretty strong feeling we're never going to see this weapon ever again. Going even further back in time now, let's talk about the zapper trap, which was last seen over 1,700 days ago. I honestly can't believe it has been that long since Season X when this item was added. This item was last in game September of 2019, and it was brought with update v10.20. The zapper trap is a really interesting weapon, and it was super unique for its time. The zapper trap allowed you to throw a trap, not just place on a wall, but throw it on a wall, ceiling, any surface, and it would set the trap on that wall. So if somebody was sitting inside of a 1x1 box, you could throw the zapper trap at their wall and it would hit the inside of their wall. So if they're sitting inside the box, they would take damage. Does that make sense? And while I didn't feel like it was that great, it did fit in perfectly with the absolute chaotic season that was Season X. Honestly, traps as a whole have just kind of gone by the wayside, but I really like the idea of a throwable trap, and I wouldn't like to see the zapper trap itself come back, but I really would like to see that idea come back in a form of a different item. We have seen traps such as the wall dynamo not be in the game for 2,000 days, so if you'd like to see a part 2 to this video, that is something that would absolutely be in there. But the zapper trap was vaulted in v11.0, which was the update that brought Chapter 2 Season 1. And since that update, we have never seen the zapper trap come back. Next, the infinity blade, which was last seen over 2,000 days ago. If you can somehow believe it, December of 2018, which was when this game was added, was over 2,000 days ago. This weapon was added with update v7.01, which was Season 7. It was absolutely insane, and I go more in depth on the infinity blade on my video where I ranked every single mythic ever. But this item was so broken that it was vaulted just 3 days later in the update v7.01 hotfix. But you were not so lucky if you are a member of, I believe it was the Winter Royale tournament that year. In the competitive scene, the Infinity Blade was somehow added in and never taken out for those days. And this was really in Fortnite's infancy in terms of its competitive scene, and the Infinity Blade just destroyed the entire tournament. If I remember correctly, I believe it was Psalm who had the Infinity Blade and ended up winning or coming at least in the top 3 of that tournament because he had the Infinity Blade and was just destroying some of the best players in the world. Now, before you say something in the comment section, yes, the Infinity Blade was actually brought back with the Sword Fight LTM, but in its Battle Royale state, yeah, this item has not come back in over 2,000 days. And going back even further is the guided missile, which, if you can believe it, was last seen 2,060 days ago. The guided missile has a super interesting history, and in my opinion was one of the most anticipated Fortnite weapons ever. It was added all the way back in Season 3 with update v3.40. It got some adjustments in update v3.50 and then was vaulted 1 week later in April 18th of 2018. It then was unvaulted in Season 5 with content update v5.10, but was disabled for a short period of time after multiple issues with the missile arose, but was finally re-enabled in update v6.20, which was the Season 6 update, but then just vaulted shortly after in update v6.21. And that was the last time we ever saw the guided missile in Fortnite. And at this point, this was in October of 2018. The guided missile remained in playground mode for the rest of Season 6, but then was removed from playground in Season 7 and was completely unavailable in the game. It's honestly insane what the guided missile has gone through, and I don't know what they have against this weapon, but it hasn't been back in over 2,060 days. It may just be because this weapon doesn't really fit with the current landscape of Fortnite. I mean, at this point, the guided missile would kind of be useless. You just build a 1x1 and there's your counter to the guided missile. Back then, when players weren't as good at building, this weapon was a lot better, but now I think it would kind of struggle. Next, we have an extremely OG weapon. That is the original submachine gun that was last seen 2,307 days ago in February of 2018, which I can't even believe that was over 6 years ago now. This weapon was added in update v1.6.3, which you will hear coming up again in a couple minutes. And it was vaulted shortly after in update v2.50, which this is going to make you feel old. This is when impulse grenades were added. Of course, now we know the SMG, right? It's the MP5 looking SMG, just your regular base submachine gun. That has been in the game plenty of times over the last 5-6 years. But this original submachine gun has not been seen in forever. But this weapon has now been reworked into what everybody knows as the machine pistol now. And it really needed to be gone because this was probably the worst weapon of its time and definitely one of the worst Fortnite weapons ever. You had just a really small magazine, terrible bloom, and awful damage. I think it used to do like 11 damage or something. And I have a feeling that this version of the submachine gun will never ever come back. The final weapon on this list was one weapon that was introduced with the launch and preseason of Fortnite. That's the zapatron, which was last seen 2,500 days ago. This weapon was last seen in update v1.6.3, which I had just talked about with the original SMG, but was vaulted after only 30 minutes due to it quote-unquote not fitting in with the current state of Battle Royale. And this is a actually hilarious comment because now the game is insane. I mean, I just imagine the zapatron in, let's say, Chapter 2, Season 7, it would just be a normal weapon. It would fit in perfectly, and we kind of saw that with the railgun that season. But this weapon was totally out of the blue, totally did not fit the landscape of Fortnite back then, was honestly like crazy futuristic for a game that basically just featured a couple ARs, a shotgun, and a couple other base guns. There is really only 1 or 2 circulated clips ever of the zapatron, so I'll try and get them on the screen now, but I apologize for any quality issues. And even making it even more rare, the zapatron was only added exclusively to supply drops, not chests, not floor loot, nothing. The zapatron is like a myth in Fortnite history. Like, it's just crazy how old it is and how little footage there is that actually exists on the internet. I think it would be a really cool weapon to bring back, but unfortunately it's been over 2,500 days since we've seen it in the game. And that's it. Those are some Fortnite weapons that have been vaulted for thousands of days and honestly may never come back. If you enjoyed this style of video, let me know in the comment section below, and if you'd like to see a part 2, send me some recommendations in the comments for some items that you would like to see on that list. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.